Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We're in March. That means it's madness time. Tournament brackets are out. We're going to get into that. We'll talk about Jeff Capel with a stay of execution at Pitt for at least one more year. We'll also get into the Penguins, who are red hot right now. At least they were last night. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is the Steelers and what they brought in free agency. Here to discuss is your panel tonight. We have Jeff Hathhorn from 93.7 The Fan, sports director there. In the middle, it's Mr. Will Grace from the Associated Press.
Shout out Wanda.
And Chris Adamski from Trib Live.
My kids, I don't know.
Yeah, you can shout out whoever you want. All right, let's get right into this, guys. I'm going to start with you, Jeff. They brought in pretty good players. They lost some pretty good players. But let's start with Michael Pittman Jr. because he's a guy the Steelers know well. He's played well against them. Virtually nothing as far as the exchange is concerned. He signed an extension. Your thoughts about him?
Well, first off, hi, Mom. Secondly, listen, it was nice to talk to a receiver that wasn't a diva. Like listening to him talk about his farm and how he's overcome stuttering and how he's a team guy and how he likes to block as much as he likes to catch, and he's willing to do whatever role. He realizes that the room isn't full, like they could go draft anybody and all fit into whatever role you need. It was like, holy cow. After dealing with George and AB, like to listen to this guy talk was awesome. And he caught 72% of the passes thrown his way, which was 12th in the league. That's the stat that I really like.
I mean, all due respect to Calvin Austin, who found work, and we're happy for that. But I mean, obviously he's an upgrade, right? I mean, he is a professional receiver. And look, he handled it professionally. The Colts paid somebody else. The Colts paid somebody else and said, hey, what can we do for you? And gave him a place where he could go and get paid, right? And I think it's an upgrade. Of course, I'm still wondering who's going to throw him the football, but it's good that, look, he's a vet. He's productive. He stays healthy. Those are all good things. DK Metcalf might be the happiest person in the league that the Steelers signed this guy.
I kept waiting. It's been 6 days now for the other shoe to drop because I see. Did the Colts just mangle this? Like the compensation of being just a late round draft swap to me. So I'm like, Michael Pittman's a really big name. I look at his numbers. I've watched Colts games. I know he makes plays. He's been a consistent producer. He's been durable. You know that he's a high pedigree guy, a draft pick. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's off the field issues here. Maybe every box has been checked this whole time, and so I'm wondering, did the Colts?
Well, they were up against the cap.
They're up against the cap.
They were up against the cap.
Couldn't they have foresight to do that before they re-signed Alec Pierce?
Yeah.
Like they probably could have handled that better, in my mind.
Right.
But if the Steelers are the beneficiary, then they're beneficiary. And like I said, I don't see. I still hope. For the Steelers' sake, if you're the Steelers, you want like a Jordan Tyson, and he becomes the #1 in a couple years, and then Metcalf is 2 and Pittman 3, then you're really cooking with gas, right. I feel like. I'm getting greedy, I get it, but.
Well, it's interesting.
It's a big wide receiving group this year.
It was interesting. He even said, not mentioning Roma, it's like, yeah, the room still looks pretty thin. Like, yeah, it does.
Well, I want to ask you about Rico Dowdle. He comes in, Kenneth Gainwell leaves. A little surprised that their team MVP chose to leave, but Dowdle's a pretty good player. How do you compare to the dude who won that exchange?
I mean, look, it's weird. I mean, Kenny G, look, he got paid. We're all happy for him that he got paid. I kind of thought that
actually more than Dowdle.
I think that might happen. I mean, look, Rico Dowdle personally killed my fantasy season last year as a Chuba Howard stan, maybe one of the 4 left in the country, when Rico sort of emerged as sort of like maybe the more consistent back for them when they were good the second half of the year last year. He's got a history with McCarthy where he was productive. He's fine. And I think, again, you don't have a bell cow, right? I mean, I think it's going to be McCarthy. It's going to be the same kind of stuff. I think we're going to see that sort of, to borrow happy birthday, Mike Tomlinism, the division of labor is still going to be pretty even. We're not going to have a 400 touch guy. But, I mean, I certainly think that, I would say it's even. What Kenny G did was sort of a very specific skill set. I think Dowdle's maybe more of your traditional kind of back. But I think, look, the guy has, made a name for himself in the league and has been productive. So
the way I kind of look at it is this, is if it was a vacuum and you were a generic team, a nameless gray-faced team, and you had the choice between Rico Dowdle or Kenny Gainwell, I might even say Gainwell, but you could have the debate and you go back and forth. I don't know if it's a pure upgrade in that sense, but in terms of what the Steelers had and what the Steelers needed, when you have Jaylen Warren, and I think this helps Jaylen Warren go back to be not back to behind Najee Harris, but back to doing exactly what he does best. And I'm sure he'll also get some early down action, and I'm sure it won't be as rigid as that, but I think that you had some level of redundancy with Gainwell and Warren. So I think in that sense, a back like Dowdle was a perfect complement. They fit together really well with Jaylen Warren.
It's gonna be a room full of chips. Because it's guys with chips on their shoulders because they weren't drafted. Your two main guys weren't drafted, and the one guy who was drafted is pretty much being put out to pasture, or at least in people's minds, who should come in and play as hard as he can because his spot on the roster is tenuous.
You wonder about Caleb Johnson, too. Where's he going to get his? So let me ask you guys about defensively. They brought in two guys I think really helps them. I'll start with you here. Jaquan Brisker is a guy who I think is a really good find, and Jamil Dean gives a compliment. Did they do it right there? At least on paper now, it frees Ramsey.
As long as they can pay Joey Porter Jr., they did it right. I mean, I think that's the, they gave Dean a fair amount of money. I mean, so you got to think what JPJ is thinking about. Well, what am I going to get then? But Dean's one of those guys, like, sometimes with corners, if they're not flashy, look at me guys, if they're just quietly productive, which this guy was just quietly productive, you don't notice it, and then you're like, wait a minute, oh, this is his resume, and oh, he signed for this much money. Brisker, I mean, all I can say is when I watched the Bears, his number, like number 9, you just saw it. Like you just saw it. He was around the ball. I'm not saying that he's, going to be Minka Fitzpatrick in his prime or whatever, but I mean, for one year deal, relatively inexpensive, I like it.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. Every time you watch the Bears game, and I know I watched a lot of Penn State games back when he played at Penn State, you've always noticed Brisker. He makes plays around the ball. He can tackle. He plays up. He can play up in the box if you need him to. I think having Jalen Ramsey sort of was able, having that guy who I'm curious to see Patrick Graham, how he plays Ramsey this year. We'll see if he is just a free safety, whether you can really get creative now, I think, now that he has the safety more in his NFL resume over these 6 months before games start to say we can experiment here, but down to down, play to play, series to series, and really do things with him. And I think get your best, just go out and sign good secondary guys, and then you can kind of, here you go, D coordinate. You got a defensive staff that's bigger than before, more experienced than before. Roll it out there. Let's put this together and see what we can do.
It's a prove-it deal for Brisker. It's an opportunity for him on a one-year deal to get something really big. The Steelers could still take a safety. I think Ramsey's going to fit into that slot. And the Dean signing, yeah, it's money, but it's not crazy money. And the guy's under 30, not a lot under 30, but he is under 30. And it doesn't prohibit you from signing Joey because of the money you gave him.
Yeah, that'll be the nice big thing to watch. What happens with Joey Porter? How much money will it cost? When we come back, we're going to talk about the Penguins, who came up with a very big win last night on the road. They trailed 2-0. They overcame it against a good up-and-coming team. We'll get into that. And Evgeny Malkin returns on Monday. We'll talk about that and more as we continue right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, how about those Penguins? Last night the Islanders won, Columbus won, so that meant they played later. In Utah, they had to win, and they fell behind 2-0. Say this about this team, it is a really resilient team, and they came back even without Crosby, Malkin, Brezzo, St. Ivany. Chris, I like how this team plays, and now that Malkin's coming back, what do you expect from him? How will he impact what's happened here? And if anyone's going to be motivated, I would imagine it's Evgeny Malkin, considering he left them for 5 games, and that was a difficult stretch for them.
Not only that, but like before the season starts, if your general manager says, well, we'll talk with you about your contract during the Olympic break comes, you're having not a career year, but a renaissance year, certainly a year for a 39-year-old, you don't get the contract. You're playing for your contract now. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? Whether for the Penguins or if he plays in the NHL or anybody else, the way he plays these final 20 games, and you kind of do got to remove the stench of the suspension in that act and everything, because it kind of hang over. And the fact the Penguins didn't, held serve while he was out, I think helps his cause. He does come back, and again, we'll see if Crosby plays the first game or not. I don't know, but it still might be a game or two where he is the guy. So it's a big time period for Gino for sure.
No, and I think that's a good point. What's going to happen, because right after what happened, he's going to get cross-checked a bunch.
Oh, everybody knows.
How's he going to react?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you knew that already, but now you know it's fresh in your mind because of what happened. What he gets in front of that net and takes some shots, how's he going to deal with it? Because that doesn't
Hopefully
just
better
affect
than he did before.
Right, that doesn't just affect how the Penguins play this season. It affects their decision on whether or not they want to give him another year.
I mean, Pomp, to your point, they have been resilient. I mean, they basically stole a point in Carolina on this trip, right? They fall behind 2-0. I'm still not sold on the big picture. I'm still not sold on the goaltending. I thought they had, to be honest with you, I had not checked the standings like that closely in a week, and I didn't realize how tight it was. I mean, it's really only Columbus is like the 9th team in the conference, right? I mean, like.
So the wild card is a bad situation to be in.
Correct, right. So, I mean, I really think that it is, and look, they've got a difficult stretch here. They got the Avs twice. They got the Canes again. Gino's got to be on his best behavior, and he's got to have his skates on. To Buzz's point, if he wants a job in the league next year, I think these last section of games is pretty important. The guy's a Hall of Famer. He's gonna have his jersey retired by the Penguins. All of that is fine. But, I mean, I think this team has surprised a lot of people, including us, I'm pretty sure. And for them to have any chance to be a threat in April, he needs to be good Gino and not bad Gino.
Oh, no. There was one of the four of us that was not surprised. That guy right there is not surprised.
I like their team. I thought they could be in it.
You know what's constant with this team, though? Their fourth line.
That's one of the reasons why I like them
I think that's their fourth line is top 5 in the league, if not higher. And that's
what happened last night.
That's what allows them to come back in games, to stay in games, to have opportunities, because their top 3 lines aren't littered. They're not littered with talent.
Right.
That fourth line gives them great
And they're out. And Damu's, to his credit, rolls 4. He's not hesitant to put Ben Kindle on key situations, even now, 18 years of age, playing shorthanded at times. So, all right, the big topic this week, Will, was the suspension to Radko Gudas, who had a long history. He has been a dirty player for his career. And I don't know if the Crosby hit was one of those, but, I mean, trouble follows him everywhere he goes. What he did to Austin Matthews should have been dealt with even in a more consequential way. 5 games is all they gave him. What do they have to do to change this? And why did he only get 5 games?
The Department of Player Safety has to grow some sort of backbone. I mean, like, that's the reality of it. I mean, I think, if what Gino did was deserving of 5 games, I'm not even arguing that. I think what he did was at least double that. At least double that. I mean, like, if Tom Wilson does that, I wonder if the suspension is different, right? That's something. But as what does Mario say? Garage league, right? And so I just think, like, you never. It's almost like it's like the Forrest Gump thing. Like, you never know what you're going to get when you see that player safety video come out explaining whatever the suspension is for anything.
And the inconsistencies there, because it used to be, okay, if a guy's out, then that punishment is going to, whether you like that rule or not, the punishment is going to change based on the availability of the player who's injured. Well, in this case, it didn't. It was like maybe it should be, of where it's the crime, it's not what happens to the player. Well, Matthews, one of the best players in the league, I know Toronto's not in it, but he's still one of the best players in the league, is out for the year. How is this guy, under their perceived thought process that it matters what happens to who gets hurt, how does he only get 5 games with his history?
I don't know what the answer is, because it's like, I guess it's subjective.
Get George Barros off that board.
Well,
he shouldn't be doing that anyway.
I don't know how you can kind of more codify your suspension level. I don't know. This is different, but the NBA, Adam Silver fined for things like tanking. Well, we just know when we see it. It's kind of what they're trying to say. But when you put the Malkin thing and the Gudas thing side by side and you see the same punishment, I don't know. And it seems like it's kind of like goaltender interference now. At least that is theoretically easier to make it more.
I don't know. I still don't know what that is.
Yeah, nobody knows that either. So
it changes from game to game.
In the NFL, when you're suspended for drug use, or Major League Baseball, you get this for the first time, this for this. Right. Why isn't it like that in the NHL?
It's a simple way to do it.
If this is his 5th time for Gudas,
suspension, yes.
Shouldn't there be a level of, if you get 5 suspensions, it's 25 games or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like Matt Cook got punched around quite a bit. I mean, like, he seemed to be getting pretty severe punishments back in the day, and now it's just like.
Yeah, it's
who knows? Whatever. He didn't die. It's fine.
We don't even have to come here. We'll do it over the phone. Stay home, and we'll give you 5 games. I don't know. Penguins got a big game against Colorado tomorrow, and then they go to Carolina again before back-to-back home games over the weekend. So it won't get any easier. Crosby could be coming back soon too. We'll keep an eye on that. Up next, we're going to talk about Jeff Capel. He's back for another year. We'll debate whether he should be back. Next. All right, welcome back. We're talking about the Pitt Panthers, who did not make the NCAA tournament now. This is Jeff Capel's 8th season. Made it only once. I should say, I thought he should have made it twice. There was a season in there where I thought he got jobbed. However, it came down to whether or not he was going to stay after the season. Chris Adamski, they took a long time, but they finally made a decision. He will return for, I would think, 1 year, even though his contract runs to the end of, I think, this decade. it had to be a choice of buyout, NIL money. What do you think the reasoning was, and do you think that was the right decision, or should they have made a deal?
It does feel like this is one. There's the hot, whatever. There's a hot seat before, however you want to term the. I don't even like the term hot seat, but there's going to be a hot seat next year. It can't go like this again next year. That's for sure, right? I mean, that's we're saying the obvious. I don't know if even like non-tournament. I don't know if it's that binary or not. I think when you factor in everything in, you have a buyout. You have a recruiting class coming in.
That was a key part of it. He has a really good recruiting class.
You have financials overall. Who you going to get that's better? Who you get, like? There's a lot going into it, and it just there's a case where, but I don't. From where I see it, I can't imagine. It's a very high pressure. Turn the ratchet up this coming season because I can't. It can't be sustainable like this any longer. I wouldn't think.
I mean, look, I think it's a matter of resources. I mean, can you afford, $10, $12 million to buy him out, then pay some new guy $10, $12, $15 million, whatever he wants, especially if you try to get a high pedigree guy. And to your point, like this recruiting class recruited coming off a 500 season. Okay, so it wasn't like they had it rolling and they were like, let's go to Pitt. If they fire him, those kids can go wherever they want.
They still could.
And then you're like, you're sort of walking that tightrope. I really think this is sort of like, this is the most sane decision. I'm not saying it's the fan base is going to be upset. I heard somebody say to me on Friday when I was at the A-10 tournament, there will be if they start, 7-4 next year, there will be nobody there the rest of the season. I get that, but I just think like these kids might be good. Maybe you make the right calls in the portal, and you take a big step forward.
Things can change pretty quickly too in college basketball.
Yeah, I mean the recruiting class is really good. I don't think it matters as much anymore because everything is year to year, that the coach doesn't have a long-term deal. Like the fact that most recruits will know that he's on a one-year deal, well, so are they. They're all on one-year deals too. Every single one of you guys you bring in. And I think the wild card here is Jay Kuntz. He did a really good job at West Virginia. Yeah, he's the GM. He did a really good job at West Virginia putting a team together for a couple of years. Right. This is his first shot at the portal. If they were able to raise money to take Capel out, hopefully that money can go to Kuntz to go find a team because you can't be 17th in the ACC and payroll and be productive.
And one of the big things, Pomp, too, I think, and Jeff and I were talking about this on the radio on Friday, like they have to, if these kids are good, if these freshmen are good, you've got to be, and maybe they don't want to go to the NBA, maybe they're like a second-round pick.
Right.
Make sure you can pay them so that it's not a Jalen Lowe situation where Jalen was, if he played on this team this year, the team's probably better, but Kentucky offered him more money and unfortunately got hurt, in early January. But like, you've got to be able, your commitment can't just be for the kids that aren't here. It's got to be to the kids that are here that you want to keep. That is a big thing that they have to address going forward.
Yeah, it's all about the money. And if you can save his salary this year, you don't have to go through a buyout. Now you have more money. And who knows? It can change in 1 year, and we'll see what Pitt does next year. But to Chris's point, it is going to be a hot seat again next season. When we come back, we'll talk about the NCAA March Madness at large, some predictions, who may get to the Final Four, and some interesting matchups involving some local guys as well. That's coming up next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Hey, we're back, and when I say #1 Cochran knows ball, I'm not kidding. Their annual Slam Dunk Offers event has returned to Audi Pittsburgh and Audi Washington. Score up to $40 per month toward your payments when you lease or purchase a new vehicle. You can choose from an elite starting lineup of Audi sedans and SUVs with the all-new Q3 earning MVP honors. Shop Slam Dunk Offers now at AudiPittsburgh.com or AudiWashington.com. All right, so we're going to start with Miami of Ohio. Big question this week was, would they get in? They were 31-0, Jeff, to start the regular season. Lost in the first round. They don't have a very good strength of schedule, but they got in as an 11th seed playing game. Was that justified?
There are going to be fewer and fewer Cinderellas. None of those other teams won 20 games. You don't win 20 games, I don't think you don't have a complaint. I know you strength of schedule, and we beat this, and Miami didn't beat anybody. March Madness is about these type of teams.
And now they got to earn it. They got to play in to get in.
Well, I mean, I think I saw something during the broadcast that the seed, you get in, but then like your resume gets you in, but then your seeding is sort of the predictive factor on whether they think you're any good or not, and they were the last at large to get in. But I think like they didn't know when they set the schedule out that they were going to be 31-0. It's not their fault that their schedule. They
tried to make it better.
It's not their fault that their schedule ended up being their schedule. Like they won all their games. That's the point, right? I mean, these mid-major conferences are what make the tournament, in the smaller conference. That's what makes the tournament. I don't need to see Auburn play basketball again this year. I'm fine with Miami.
What if they beat SMU? They're going to earn their way in.
I mean, I was a big advocate all year for it. When you lose in the quarterfinals a year, you lose in the first. It felt like they lost in the final or lost in the semis. The Akron was actually pretty good. No, they lost in the essentially their first round, the quarterfinal. So they deserve to sweat and they deserve to play in the play-in game. But yeah, like I mean, Auburn was what 17 and 16.
Right. Yeah.
What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? A one game over 500, and they're going to complain.
That's never happened. We're a one game over 500.
One game over.
Regardless
I mean,
of the strength
come
of
on.
schedule.
I mean, 31. And I totally get it. If you want to put, I'll even acknowledge. I don't know if they put Auburn in Miami on a neutral court, maybe Auburn wins, but 17. I'm not going to invite the 17 and 16 team in the tournament.
All right, we got about 1 minute or less. I want to ask you about, we have Calipari and Malik Thomas at Arkansas.
Yeah.
You also have Jamie Dixon taking on your Ohio State Buckeyes. Give me a team that you think will be a surprise team or maybe win the thing.
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know if Arkansas can be a surprise at 4.
They can be.
I mean, I think I haven't studied the brackets enough to know, but I
Say Ohio State. Go ahead.
let's say Ohio State.
For producer Steve, who's back there stewing, I'll say I'm a big Pitino guy. St. John's did get jobbed on their seeding. You beat UConn twice, win the Big East. You should be higher than a 5 seed.
Absolutely.
They're in a murderous bracket, but you know what? Kansas is a little up and down. No offense to Ohio State, a little up and down. I like the Johnnies.
Duke's still the best team in the country. Duke's going to win it all. You know I was going to say that, right?
His kid's name is Cameron,
St.
and his other kid's name is
John's
Quinn.
is going to win it all here
Wow.
right now. St. John's. We'll be back with more right after this. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be on again next Sunday night, 11:35. Thank you to Chris Adamski. Thank you.
I'm looking
to
at the bracket
Braves.
now,
Thank
all right?
you to Jeff Hathhorn. There was a late prediction. Go ahead. How about Michigan State? Tom Izzo.
How about High Point beating Wisconsin?
Ooh, that's 5-12.
Yes.
Okay, every
Ten hate.
5-12 is
Purdue, good guard play, red hot. Purdue.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next Sunday night. Good night.
Shout out Colin Graves, Gateway Gators, first varsity save Friday in the win.